I've got some fabric scraps, I've got some cotton. Let's make ourselves a Christmas card from scraps this is from my quilting, and some cottons and some bits and pieces. Hello everyone, I'm Caroline and welcome to my home on the hillside here in Wales. I've got a few bits and pieces here. Obviously we won't be using all of this just for one Christmas card, but we will be using little bits of most of it. I'll show you what I've got. Now this, I thought, if I need it for smoke coming out of a chimney, wouldn't that be brilliant? Now I've got an idea in my head of what I'm going to make, but I haven't actually made a test one, so I have no idea really where we're going to go with it, but I thought that would be part of the fun. So I put that there. Got myself some embroidery floss, and I've got this one. Look, it's a metallic silver. Now, I've only tried this out a few times, so I'm still quite a novice at using this. It's completely different to using this. So we'll see how that goes. I've got a bit of white there as well. Got this piece of paper, cardy, papery stuff. Got an idea of where that may come in handy. And I show you the fabrics I'm thinking of using. I picked this little piece of lace out of my lace drawer. I've got a drawer full of all my bits of lace, so I thought that'll come in handy. That struck me, it was in my scrap box and looked like a roof. I'm not going to use it as a roof, but I'm probably going to use it. And then I've got some various, I've got ginghams and things like that. I've got a spotty one, which I thought makes perfect snow. I've got these bits of lace that I chopped up. It's a bigger piece of lace, but I'm interested in the long, thin strips. And you'll see why when we get started. I've got this. I'm not sure whether I'll use this one. Here's my card. Just a piece of paper, or it's a thick card from one of the paper books you get. I cut it into the card shape I'd like to use. So that's what we're going to be measuring to get the size for the piece of fabric we're going to work on. I had some fabrics and they weren't really, I want to make a gingerbread house, and I thought, what fabrics can I use to change into gingerbread colour? I was chatting to one of my friends and she said, the problem is not everybody's got access to gingerbread coloured fabric. And I thought, neither have I really. So I tried dyeing these with coffee and it wasn't the greatest of successes because I was rushing. But I'll show you, this was quite a bright yellow. It's now like a mustard colour. I've got this, which started off white. What I did find, when I went online, I thought, let's check, because sometimes you can forget the exact shade of gingerbread or whatever it is you're looking for. And I couldn't find a definitive, this is gingerbread colour, because gingerbread goes from very barely cooked right through to well cooked and dark brown on the edges. So I thought, well, I'm going to get away with what I think the closest I've got is this. So I'm going to use it anyway, and we'll see how it goes and see if you can get away with using something that isn't strictly gingerbread colour. I've got a few little bits and pieces, and I got this with a bit of sparkly on. So let's get started on the card. And the first thing I need to do is measure this card to make sure I get the right size to put on the front of it. So I'm going to cut a piece of fabric as my backing fabric, my background, I don't know what you would call it. And then I'm going to add on top to that. So now I've got to decide which one of these I'm going to use. If I use this as the gingerbread, then let's see how much they stand out together, which is the best contrast. Now I like it with the dark, but if you squint your eyes, there's not a lot of difference there. I think there's more difference if I put it on the white. Let's have a look on the card. That's going to contrast like that on the card, and this one is going to be like that. Right, against my better judgment, I'm going to go for the darker one, I think. No, I'm not. I'm going to go for the lighter one. I've made up my mind. I'm going for the lighter one. Eventually, we're going to be sticking this onto here, but for now, we're going to put the card away. We're going to have a look and see what we can build out of the bits and pieces we've got. So we're going to need a gingerbread house. And am I going to make it the main feature? You can either make it the main feature and then just leave it like that. I'm thinking of making it a little bit smaller. It's going to be fiddly, but I'm wondering whether to make it a bit smaller, and then I can put some trees around it. That's my thinking. So let's cut out the house first. So if we make the house, ooh, looking at this, about there. Very accurate. And now I'm going to fold this fabric in half. If you want to, you can be really, really accurate about this. It would look lovely. I'm doing this more sort of casual look. 2 reasons. 1, I just like the casual look. And 2, it's going to save me a lot of time. So I think about there. I'm going to cut at an angle up to the fold. And there we've got our gingerbread house. And I don't like that. It's not pointy enough. So I'm going to fold it back again. And try a bit more of a point. Oh, that's better. So we put that, we'll be putting that about there. Now what I was thinking is to put some lace. And my lace may be a bit big for this. Now looking at the size, if I fold that over, I think that's a bit big. I think I've overdone it, haven't I, with that? Aha, I found this. Oh, it's not very white, is it? Looks... I've got a lot of vintage lace. If I put that there, oh, I think we might get away with it. Let's have a look. And that's going to be a better size. So I'm going to use this one. And we're going to need some windows. So I thought that if the light was on in the house, then you'd see yellow and that would be like the light coming through. But where this looks so light now, I don't think it's going to look right. It looks like it's daytime, so it wouldn't really have... If I show you a little square I did cut out, I don't think that's going to work, is it? If we'd have the darker around, it would have looked like there was like the light from inside the house shining out, nice and warm. But nope, not going to use that. So I'm just going to leave it as it is, I think, and have gingerbread colour behind this. So the next thing we need to do is to stitch this on. Now, if you want to, you can use a sewing machine. I'm going to slow stitch this, just for the fun of it. So I think what I'll do is fold it over like that. I'm going to have some fun at the top. But it looked like the snow is hanging down off the house. So right, let's get some cotton and get that started. So now before I sew this on, I'm going to fold it in half and just finger press it. Because otherwise it's going to be awkward to do. It's still not pressing very well. I don't want to get my iron out really. Let's go. I'm wondering if there's perhaps some polyester in this. I thought it was cotton, where it's a vintage one. I thought maybe it would be all cotton, but evidently not. And to get this to stay on, it's your option then. I mean, you can just do some running stitches along the top. Just a second. There we go. Or you can go, I think what I'm going to do is do some little, what they call whip stitching, over and over along the edges. So if I show you now, you go where your thread is coming out, go exactly opposite that, and then come up a little bit back onto the white there. And you can see there are already some stitches around the outside of this lace, so they should, in theory, disappear and you won't see them. Level with that and through here. I get the feeling I'm not catching the back. We'll have a look now. We will resort to gluing the back down, I think. I don't know, I may do a row of running stitches along the top. Let's see, this isn't taking very long at all. I'm really enjoying it, even though it's very fiddly. Now, for some reason, my monitor isn't playing games again today. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I've come to a conclusion. I think what it is if my camera is low, it seems to be if it's lower than 16%, it won't actually send any energy out to run the monitor. So I've marked little marks on my table here with some washi tape so that I can see when I'm going off shot and out of frame. So hopefully you can see this. I don't even know if it's in focus. I'm just going to stand and have a look. And I seem to be over there. Sorry about that. Let's come over here. The advantage with this, you can use any bits and bobs you've got. You don't need much for making a card this size, especially if you're going to be doing, like I'm doing, just a small house and small decorations on it. You really can use those tiniest of scraps. Right, as much as I would rather not be at the angle at the top, I just rather just sew. I'm going to have to deal with it. I'm going to have to be a big girl and decide what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to come down like that. And this, you may know exactly how to sew an angle. I don't. It's just something I've struggled with. There we go. That's not too bad, is it? Go on, who may say, no, that's wonderful. Oh, look, it's all coming folded now. And I don't want to pin it because it's so tight. It's only a tiny bit there. Right, then I'm going to take my life in my hands and sew up this join and hope that it's at the right angle. If not, we're going to fudge it and wiggle it a bit, okay? If you don't tell anybody, I won't. Try and get that fold going right up to the top. Oh, am I wandering off again? Sorry. I think one of the problems is I've got quite a large, I'm using like an iPad for my filming, and the camera's right at the top of it. So I tend to go central of the iPad, which isn't central of the camera. Let's have a look how that's looking. Oh, that's not too bad, isn't it? So I'm going to come back down now underneath the fabric there and at the bottom, like that. And then I can fold this side and work my way down this side. Now you can, if you wanted to, embroider this as well. Put something white on, use some thick embroidery. You could get some glitter even, I suppose. And anywhere where I'm putting white fabric, white thread, you could just paint on glitter, you know, put some glue on, add the glitter. You could get a Posca pen or one of those acrylic pens, and you could just draw all this on, colour it in. So then you're really reducing the amount of hand stitching you're doing and really increasing the time. But I'm not worried about time. I do have one eye on the clock because I know I don't want to make the video too long. But I certainly don't mind taking a bit of time over doing this because that's part of the fun of it. It's the process. Sometimes when we're sewing, it's so easy to get to the point of how quick can I do this? And sometimes you need to sew quickly, especially if you're sewing to sell, because you need to get all your stock made. Or if you've got children and you're just trying to grab an hour while they're asleep, or you're working lots and lots of hours and you just don't have the time during the week. So on the weekend, you want to achieve as much as you can. But if you can slow down every now and again and appreciate the process, I think it feels so much more organic to sew by hand. And then, I don't know, it just feels so much more traditional. I know they've had sewing machines around since the 1800s and some things, but it just feels more traditional. It's just me. Oh, we're nearly at the end already. This is looking rather cream though, isn't it? Compared to the way, I don't know why the end is cream. Never mind. It'll be fine. You know me. For me, whatever I do, the most important thing is to enjoy it. And if I'm enjoying it, then anything that goes wrong doesn't really matter. Now, I want to do a tree, and I was wondering what's best to do. I could use some green. I've got this tiny bit of green here. But I don't know. I think that's taken away from the gingerbread look. So then I thought, oh, now I thought about a roof with this, but I think it's going to make a really nice tree. So I could cut it up that way, and then it'll be running, the lines will be running down like that. Or I could cut it that way. Let's have a look. And I prefer that, I think. So I'm going to cut this into a tree shape-ish. Fold it in half, it makes a better tree shape. Be more even. And then I'm going to cut it this size, and if I need to make it narrower, I can. If I cut it too narrow, there's nothing I can do. That's too fat. Too fat. Need it substantially narrower. That one can go there. This one's going to go behind the house. There. And then I'm going to put a moon. Now, thinking about it, I should really have gone darker for my moon, but still, it's the way it's going to be. I forgot all about the moon. So I can either use this silver here or cut out some of this paper. So let's cut out some of this. I can always neaten that up if necessary. I'm probably going to need to shrink it down anyway. Oh no, it's not too bad. So I could put that as the moon, or I could cut out a circle out of this, which isn't going to be easy. Oh, I'll tell you what I could do. Because this isn't a perfect circle. If I cut it out and make it not a new moon, but not a full moon. If I cut that around like that. Oh yes, that's going to look nice. But should I put it that way? No, I'm going to put it there. Then the lace I had, I wanted to use these little wispy bits. Where are the best wispy bits? These are the best wispy bits. I thought if I just cut some of those, like that, chop them there. That's more shooting star, isn't it? Okay, we need to put a shooting star on. And I've gone and cut it off the flower now. I can cut this flower out. And this is such fun working on a process like this. I put the star there. And then, no, that's too long, so I need to trim that off a bit. Oh, I don't know where the star's going yet. If I trim that, like that. And then put a shooting star in the sky like that. It's starting to look more like a nativity scene, isn't it? It'll be fine, it'll be fine. What will this look like? Let's give this a little chop. I'm going to keep that shiny bit in if I can. Like that. And there, like that. And I can put that in. And then where's my tree? Where's my tree? Put that tree behind. No, I'm crashing. I'm crashing. So let's try putting that. If it's a shooting star coming down, okay? And then the tree can go there, and that fits nicely. And then the house can go there with the tree behind the house. Ish. And then we can put the little tree there. Oh yeah, I like that. It's not quite what I was planning, but I quite like that. So I'll just stick a pin in very lightly there, just so I know basically where it's going. So it's going to be easier when I come back to it. And now I'm going to decorate the... Should I decorate this first? I think so. So I'm going to get a pencil and mark where I want things to be. I'm going to draw a heart there. Hearts are quite synonymous with gingerbread houses. And then I can either do 2 windows and a door in the middle, or I can do a door there. Yeah, I think 2 windows first. I should really have used my ruler, shouldn't I? Come on, Caroline, don't be lazy. You get your ruler out. There we go. So the next thing we need to do now is get some embroidery onto this. And I'm going to use my white floss, which I have here. And I think 2 strands will be plenty. I know it's supposed to look like icing sugar, but if I make it too thick on a house this size, it's just going to be, it's going to look clumbersome, I think. We don't want clumbersome decorations, do we? So I'm just going to take 2 threads off the floss. It's tied its own knot in the end. Just run my nail down a couple of times. Try and get it to run a bit straighter. Now I'm going to do a chain stitch, a very, very small chain stitch all the way around. Just in case you don't know how to do a chain stitch, you make a loop with your thread. Then you go back into the top of the loop you made last time, and out you come, about the length of the loop. Pull that a bit tighter, not too tight. You're not looking for tight, you're just sort of holding it in place, and then pull like that. So go into the top, put your thread around, go into the top of the last one, up where you want the top of the next one to be. Move your thread. You don't, this is optional to move it around. I find it tangles less. Then pull your needle through. Look at that. So I'm working my way to the top, and I'll tell you about my new surface for my table. For the observant among you who notice that it's not a horrible scratched cutting mat anymore. I was shopping in Hobbycraft, and next to Hobbycraft there is a small, well, it's not small, but it's like a carpet warehousey sort of thing. It's not huge, but it's not a bad size. And every now and then they sort out all their offcuts and things that they don't want. I don't know if they sell them inside, but I know outside they just put them out every now and then with a big sign saying free. Please do not take the board that this is written on. So I take it somebody had taken a big piece of wood that said free and thought that was free. Right, I've got halfway around. Remind me what I was talking about. I'll get back to this. So now I want to go back. You can keep going, but I want to keep them in the same direction. So just going to slowly weave my way right down to the bottom and start again coming up the other side. So where was I? That's right. So I was passing and all these things were outside. And one of the things that was there was a roll of lino. Now, it's not a huge roll, but it was probably about 6 foot by 6 foot. And I thought, oh, now that might be a great idea to cover the top of my desk with. And I'm hoping it's not quite so clattery as well when I put things down, because my cutting mat was terribly noisy. I'll find out when I edit this. I'm hoping I've solved a bit of that problem when I'm always picking my scissors up and putting it back down. So my cutting mat is still under there for when I need to use it. But when I'm not using it, I can use this really pretty, well, it's not pretty, but it's much better than what was there. So I'm not doing this on the floor. Some of you may be imagining me lying on my stomach, holding my hands out in front of the camera on my kitchen floor or something. I'm not. This is my desktop. Thread in there, now on my last stitch. Into there. And then you can either end your daisy there or you can tie it to go over the top of the other one. I think I'm going to end my daisy outside the loop of the other one. I think it'll look nicer. Like that. So they both come to a point there. And then poke that in there. Now there are a few options with the windows. You can either do the same thing again, or I'm thinking of just doing, I'm going to try this. I don't know if it'll work. I'm going to sew around the window. Using big stitches. Because I want them to be, let's go closer, I want them to be very straight. And I suppose I could just do them like back stitches, but I don't know why, I tend to wander when I'm doing this sort of thing. That's pulling a bit tight, be very careful. Because it's such big stitches, it is so easy to tighten them too much. In there. Out of the top. And back down. And then I'm going to come up just inside there, about halfway, and go across and inside that thread halfway, like that, and then up to the top. Whenever I do anything like this, I always try and alter the way I do things just a little bit, because it's all a learning curve. And you never learn if you stick to what you know you can do. So that's the window, and I'm going to do a double row now. Over again on these. I'm hoping I've got enough thread just to thicken them up a bit, because where the heart is so dark, I think they need a little bit more oomph. What do you think? Yeah, I think that'll be plenty. Finish it off and then do the other window. Now I finish that window, I'm moving over to, this is a little bit bulgy, isn't it? Pull around and see if you can, there we are. I'm doing a stem stitch around the door, just because I like to do different stitches. And with a stem stitch, you go halfway down the last stitch, and then you come past where that stitch went in just a bit. Made that last one a little bit big, and you pull through like that. You come halfway down the last stitch you did, go over the line where you want to be. You need to push it over a little bit and then back up a little bit away from your last stitch. You just work like that till you get to the top or the end or back to the beginning, depending on what you're sewing really. I'm always struggled with stem stitch being really neat. I've seen some people do beautiful stem stitch. I don't know whether it is just the amount of time. It's not, because I don't do it well, I don't tend to do it much. And then you get out of the habit of trying and practicing, and so you don't get the time in. And I think it's like any skill. If you really want to get good at it, your only answer is to practice. It's funny, isn't it, how not everyone, most of us are creatures that always take the easiest route. It's probably from some sort of survival instinct. But you're like, I could do this and it's going to take a lot of effort. It might not be perfect, or I could just do what I always do and I know it'll be fine. I quite often resort to that. But I'm determined over 2026, because the New Year's coming up now. I'm not making a New Year's resolution, but I am going to try spending more time doing those sort of things that I've done for years badly, but never really invested the time in improving on them. That wasn't a perfect stitch there, but when you see the whole card, you won't notice. Sometimes we beat ourselves up for the smallest of mistakes, and nobody will even notice them. I heard once somebody saying that if you saw somebody treating a person the way you treat yourself, you'd be really angry with them. Because we always have tolerance and we're helpful and kind to people, and yet we're not to ourselves. It was, oh, look, I've made a mess of that. Oh, that's gone wrong. Oh, I'm really not good enough. But if you said that to somebody else, they'd be like, you can't say that. That's really cruel. Yet we think it's okay to say it to ourselves. Funny, isn't it? We need to learn to be more kind with ourselves. So there we go. Now all we need really, if I hadn't run out of thread, I would have done it with the same thread to save having too many. Save, lots of saves there. I don't know why. I always used to have to sort of wet the end of my thread to thread the needle. Now I'm using these easy thread needles a lot. I still end up doing that. And then you just end up with, I cut the soggy bit off then. It's not soggy. I sound like a dog who's dribbling whenever I make my thread soggy, but you know what I mean. Right, so we just need a door handle. If you want to, you can do little tiny running stitches down here, make it look like planks. I'm not going to. I think it'd be too much. I'm just going to do a French knot. So let's do a French knot. You bring your thread through. Put your needle close to where it's going to go back down. Oh, this is very difficult on a little piece like this at an angle. I'm struggling. 1, 2 loops like that, and then, oh, sorry, I'm taking so long over this. Then right close to where you came out, you go back in, and then pull your thread through, and you've got a little doorknob. Look at that. And figure out where everything's going to go. Where's my tallest tree? That's my tall tree. Which side did we say that was going on? That side. So if I pin that into place, let's go in there, get a pin it in, and then the house is going to go there. I'm going to put my house there, yeah. No, the house is coming lower than that tree. I'll get there in the end. And then, where's my other little tree? Is this it? Now I'm going to cut this one even thinner. I don't like it. It looks too round and stubby. Looks more like the gherkin in London. The gherkin as in the building. Not a giant green gherkin wandering around London, menacing everyone. And then that's going to go there. Right. So I'm not going to put that one there yet. I'm not going to put that one there yet. I'm going to get this tree dealt with. So we need to sew all around the outside. I'm going to use white again, I think. And I'm going to do a blanket stitch all the way around the outside. I don't really need to do it over the part of the tree that the house is going to be on. But then again, I don't want to have to measure and fuss about. And I've still got to do running stitches anyway. So I'm going to do a blanket stitch. So come through right on the join. And then make sure your thread is up and out of the way. Move along a little bit. Do a stitch down and up back to the level of the join. And then pull your thread through. And well done, you've done your first blanket stitch. Down, back up by the join. Don't think I'm wandering off. And then pull it through like that. Now on the corners, people do this different ways. I tend to go into that blanket stitch bottom, out on the corner, and do like a triangular blanket stitch. Like that. And then I'm going to come along this edge. I'm going to go back into that corner again. I just like the look on that. I don't know what normal people do. A lot of my embroidery is just came by hit and miss. So I'm probably not doing what you would term normal people do who have learned embroidery. And then you just head off down your next seam. This is a real fun one to do, and you don't have to pink the edges or turn them under if you don't want to, because of the style of this. And a little bit of fraying will just look cute. And it's not going to fray too much because the blanket stitch is holding it into place. If you want to put some iron on interfacing on these trees, then that'll hold them a bit stiffer and stop the fraying. But I like them like this. So next we're going to get to the top of the tree and then turn to come back down. So there's my first tree. The next thing I need to do before I put the other tree on, because of the order, is I need to put the gingerbread house on. Now for the gingerbread house, I'm going to put some running stitches all around. I thought that would look nice. Pin it into place. So now to do my running stitches right there around the house. And running stitch, a good way to think of running stitch is if you imagine in the snow, because we're on a snow theme, somebody is running along, and every time they put their foot down, oh, the needle doesn't want to go through that bit. Every time they put their foot down, they leave a little footprint. So you're going to run along in the snow, leaving little footprints right along the edge of the gingerbread house. And with running stitches, you can either take them individually, like this. One, put your needle through from top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom, bottom to top. Is that house a bit wonky? Yes. Straighten that up before I commit myself to sewing it on. That's better. Or you can gather several running stitches at once on your needle, or just the one. So you can go down and up, which is what traditionally I suppose people think of as sewing. Where'd that bit of cotton come from? It's coming off the edge there. So you can do that, or there is a way of doing it this way, but I find when you're doing a couple of layers, it's really hard on your hands. And for those of you who know me, I have terrible trouble with my thumbs. I'm trying to protect them, so if you've got any hand issues, I wouldn't recommend you do that. Now I keep getting all that threads off the end of there. You see, that's a lovely effect. I think if you did a solid line, it would look too heavy for the size of the house. And you've got so many solid lines going on, I think there's enough. Then across the bottom, I love gingerbread. Do you like gingerbread? I've only ever bought gingerbread biscuits, and then one year we decided we were going to make a gingerbread house, and it was one of these kits where you had all the pieces and you just made up the icing sugar or the frosting, and then you added on, oops, fraying a bit much, it doesn't matter, and then you added on all the little sweets and decorations and things. And I thought, it looks okay, but it's probably just too much gingerbread. We'd eat it Christmas Day through the day. And at that point, I had 4 children and my husband, so it was 6 of us. And we did manage to get through it by the end of the day. But what I liked, 2 things I liked about it. One was, take that out now. One was that it smelt the whole living room out. Put it on the shelf and it smelled beautiful. And 2, it was so tasty. So it's very rare I've had a gingerbread house since then because I just eat too much of it. I absolutely love it. What I find as well is, like in the kit, maybe it was just specific to the kit I got. The kit I got was really lovely. It was from Lidl's, I think. But it wasn't dry. I found a lot of you buy gingerbread men, they can be dry. But this certainly wasn't dry. I absolutely loved it. Have you seen, okay, here's an interesting question. You probably have seen all the gingerbread flavoured things in the shops this year. It seems to be the in thing. I've tried Pepsi Max gingerbread. There was a funny taste to it. It wasn't really gingery. I liked it, but it wasn't gingery. And then my son tried it and said, that's cola bottles. And it was. As soon as he said that, I thought, yep, it tastes like cola bottles. And obviously, people are not happy with it because it's a limited edition and it's already down to £1 a bottle. Just trying to get rid of it now. So obviously not so many people like cola bottles as they like gingerbread pop, and they haven't bought any more of it. But the one thing I saw, I was going to have one treat for Christmas, and it was going to be McVitie's chocolate digestives, but they were gingerbread instead. And I thought, oh yes, that is going to be my treat for Christmas Day. And then turns out that they were limited edition, and it was only like 2 weeks later I decided to buy them ready, and they'd all gone. I have tried probably 10 supermarkets over the last 2 weeks, and I cannot find them anywhere. So have they got any by you? If they have, I'll make the journey. No, I wouldn't make the journey. I'm not that bad. I wouldn't travel 10 hours to the top of Scotland to get them. But it would be interesting, when you're next in the shop, have a look and see if they do McVitie's gingerbread half chocolate biscuits. They got the salted caramel ones left. They got white chocolate left. I think there's another one. They did lots of different ones, but the gingerbread ones are all gone. Oh, never mind. I'll come up with another treat I can have for Christmas. I've been sewing the second tree into place. I'm just finishing up. And it's exactly the same principle as with the last tree. Now, I have noticed I'm having terrible trouble with this fabric. I think this must be a poly cotton. I assumed it was a cotton, but it's really fraying badly and it's getting in the way of all my stitches. So I would recommend, if that happens to you, or if you think it's going to happen even, you cut around the edge of your fabric with a pinking shears and it'll stop that happening. So there we've got our house and our trees. Now we need to deal with our shooting star, or whatever it is we called it. So I've got that pin there. I'm not sure that's where it's going. I'm just going to trim this a little bit more, I think. Let's have a look. What did I don't know. Let's have a look. Oh, I think that'll go fine there. Yeah, I like that. And I like the way these are going up at that angle, and then this is coming down at this angle. And what that creates, if you want to look at it artistically, is a little bit of a circle, because otherwise you'd see that star. If you just look at that, you watch that star and it takes your eye off the picture. If the star wasn't there, your eye would go up the points and off the picture. But this will take your eye up the points, hit the star and come down, and then it'll hit the top of the trees and go up, and it keeps you focused on the picture. There is a surprising amount of things that come into art. You've got the golden triangle and groups of 3, things like that. It's quite interesting to study. But if you just know a little bit like that, try and keep things running in a circle. That's always a good thing. Never have anything that leads your eye directly off the picture unless you can't be helped. And it doesn't really matter with a Christmas card, but if you want to make it a bit more artsy, then that's something you can do. So I'm just going to hold this one in place now, the star, and just do a little tiny stitches to attach it. So I'm just going to go not very far away and back in. like running stitches, but they're not particularly running anywhere. They're just trying to get somewhere where they can hold some of the threads in place on this so it stays put. And I'm going roughly around the outside of the star. I may do 1 or 2 on the inside the star because I think that the weight of those 3 pearls may be a bit heavy and it'll sag. We'll find out. This is a nice, easy thing to do. And if ever you see, if you're in a thrift store, charity shop, and you see an old tatty child's dress that's got a little bit of braid or something special like this on it, don't discount it because it's got stains or something like that, or tears. Quite often you'll get like a bridesmaid's dress and you can see the bridesmaid has somehow trodden on it and torn the hem, and they are very, very cheap because nobody wants them. But I get those, and then I can get all the little bits off them, all the embellishments. Just 1 stitch in the middle there. Yeah, it seems fine. And I'm going to work my way out. This is lovely because, can you see the stitches I've made? No, thought not. And then we're going to sew the tail down with exactly the same method. I cut that a bit short. What if I take that out now? And oops, sewn it into position. Never mind, we can snip it back off under there. Like that. And then move that in a bit. Like that. That's better. Just pin that into place for a while. But yeah, the problem I got is if I've accidentally forgotten to charge my camera, then I've either got to wait for hours for it to get charged up enough that I can use the monitor, or I've just got to go for it. And as soon as you start to film, even though start to finish, this will probably take me 2 hours and all the filming, because it's using up the energy to actually run the camera bit. It's not getting any stronger a charge. I'm still down to about 8% in my camera, so there's no way that it's going to use my... There's nothing wrong with my monitor then, it's just user failure. I forgot to charge my camera. I'm not going to come right to the end of this because I think even if the end sticks up a little bit, it just give it a bit more life. Do I need to come along here? I might put 1 or 2 stitches just to anchor that in place along there. 1 there. 1 there. And a little bit further down. So anything you've got like this, and you can even just hand sew sequins, or you can not put a star. You could, the shooting star, you can just put a button. A button would look lovely as the moon or the sun or whatever you want it to be. I think I'll come right down here and attach it to the flower. Like that. There we go. And then finish it off. Now that's got a bit of sparkle on it, but what I wanted to do is put a little bit of sparkle on the snow. Now I could cut out bits of this, but I think that's going to look too clumpy. Let's have a little look before I go committing myself to stitching, even though I bought the floss especially to do the stitching. We'll have a look. If I cut off these sequins, don't want to go too close. Let's have a look. Sorry about I've noticed as well when I'm filming, whenever I'm concentrating, I go very quiet. You can't hear me. No, I think it's going to look better stitched. Now this is beautiful, but it is very wiry. I don't know, very wiry. It's not proper wire or anything, but it's certainly not going to be as easy to use as I was hoping. But then again, that's the price you pay for sparkly thread. Now I'm wondering whether I can get away with 1 piece. Will I get enough sparkle from 1? That's 1 piece, and let's break off 2 separate threads, because what I'm finding with this is when you have 2 threads, you're forever having to run your finger along them because 1 thread, oh dear, will move faster than the other. There we go. If you see what I mean, slide against the other one. Very difficult to explain. I'll go for 2. So what I just want to do is put a little bit of this silver. Oh, can you hear the noise it makes? In long stitches. along the top there, and straight away, I forgot to show you, but they came apart. Let's see if I can show you this time. When I go back down, the one loop is looser than the other loops. You've got to run your fingers along it at the back to make sure they come down. I was going to do a lot more silver on this, but as I say, I'd never used this before and I had no idea it was going to be such a learning curve to get done. So I'm just going to do some stitches along the top of here just to look like frost. I think that'll look cute. See this? Oh, this is very awkward to work with. I somehow managed to pull the knot out now. Oh well, we'll get there. We'll get there. Can you see how fiddly it is? So I did think, oh, I found a really nice thread, but I think I may change this up for one that's on like a cotton reel. I've seen one that didn't look quite so wiry as this. But then again, it may snap then. I don't know. I can say that I am not enjoying using this. So this is by no means compulsory. If anything, I would give you a warning. If your patience is running low, don't use this. It'll drive you bananas. I'm going to persevere and go right along the top. I'm wondering whether perhaps a blanket stitch would have been better. I was going to put these stitches closer together, but I don't think I can do that. I think it is driving me too bananas already. So it's just going to be getting odd stitches. You know, little gaps in between the stitches. I think that'll be fine. I just wanted to add a little bit of bling and pizzazz with the frost. Right, now I won't torture you anymore with this. I shall sit here and torture myself. And I'll show you what it's like when I get to the end of this bit. Oh, I have to say that if I never worked with this thread ever again in my life, I would be quite happy. I did not enjoy that. But I did want to show you one more thing that I was going to do. I did have a test piece that I can't find now of French knots. I tried using French knots, I practiced a little bit, and it is very fiddly. I was going to do French knots all over the place, but I'll just do a few just to show you what they look like in this. I find this extremely unruly, so please bear with me. So come up with your thread, just like a French knot with any other thread, just 20 times as frustrating. Wrap around your thread, your needle twice, pop the needle back in very close to where it came out, and then pull it through. This keeps happening. It's all shredding now on the ends. And then you've got yourself a little French knot. It's not very big, and that's two loops. I did try one with 3, but I thought that was a bit too big. I'm going to put some on here, and it doesn't matter. I see this as not the sort of thing I could actually give away, because I don't like what this silver has done to it. So I'll just pop some French knots anyway, just to show you. That's wrapped around 3 times. That one I think is pulled through the fabric, actually. Let's do a 2 one, because I didn't need a 3 wrap one, really. Up there. Let's try again. 1, 2, down we go. See what happens now. There you go. I think that's a neater one than the 3. The 3 tends to stick up a little bit. I don't know if you can see on camera. But then I thought this would have looked nice if I'd done this all round the base. Actually, I'm finding French knots easier than I was finding just doing a straight stitch. Seems to perform quite well on French knots, actually. No, so okay, it wasn't a complete mistake buying this. Yeah, I'm enjoying doing these French knots. I never thought I'd enjoy working with this, but I am. Where's that coming from? Get out of the way. I think because it's slidey, it's making a French knot easier than when you're doing it with non-shiny thread. I'm only going to do a couple. The thing is, because we're joined now, I can't stop. It's like addictive. Right, I'm stopping there because can you see it's actually worn? It just snapped. It just completely gave up the thread. It was a bit shreddy for the last French knot, and then it just completely collapsed. So I was only doing that with one thread. So, if I had to give a review on this, then it's DMC and it's silver metallic. There is a name for it. Let's have a look, see if I can find it. It is Moulinet. I think there's an accent on there. I think it's Moulinet. Then I didn't enjoy sewing with it. I did enjoy doing French knots, but I'd make sure that I didn't cut off too much at a time, because as soon as you use too many stitches on it, it shreds and it's a bit of a mess. So if I had to give that marks out of 10, I don't know how many I'd give it. I've seen lots of embroideries where this have been used. I've never seen the people using it, and they look quite nice. So I can't really give an honest review because I haven't used it enough. But on this experience, I'm going to make myself try a bit longer, but I don't think I'll be using much of that. So now if you want to add more embellishments, you can. You can put little yo-yos on and things, but I think that's enough. I like the simplicity of it. Just have a look what this looks like on the card. It's going to look really pretty. But what I'm going to do this time, usually I glue them on. I'm not going to glue this on this time. I'm going to get some red cotton. Probably don't need anywhere near as much as I cut off. And this card is very stiff. I'm going to go down there and back up at an angle like that. Like that. Chop it off, and I think I'm going to cut them off shorter than that. It's about 1 centimetre, I think will do. And do the same on all 4 corners. So there we have it. Now, why did I do this? I could have glued it on. It would have looked just as good. If not, some people may think it would look better. I'm going to chop these ends off there because they're getting a bit long, but you can just leave the frayed bit on if you like. Just taking the longest bits off. Oh, the more I do it, the worse it gets. Right, well, I've got to stop now, okay? So the reason I've done this is it's good when you're making your patchwork or clothing or whatever it is, or if you buy in your fabric scraps, then it's great that it saves them from landfill by turning them into cards. But then what happens at the end of Christmas? People take the card, they throw it in the bin, it's ended up in landfill. All you've done is delay it by a very short space of time. But by doing it like this, the person can take this off this card, sew it onto a piece of a card and send it to a friend again next year. And this could go on for years and years and years if you wanted to. And you could write that inside the card, say to the person, this is done like this. I've created it this way, so you can take the front panel off. And another thing that people could do is they could put them into frames. And every year, if you make one like this, they can put them in frames on their wall. Or if, if you've got enough years left in your life, then you could send them regularly to somebody who makes quilts, and eventually they would have enough panels to make a quilt. And that would be really fun if you started sending them to each other when you're younger. And you imagine 50 years later, you've got 50 of these panels and you think, it's time, I'm going to make a quilt with these. That would be fun. And to see the progression of the person's style and even their abilities. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope I've inspired you to give it a go. I'm sorry if I didn't really inspire you by my work with the metallic thread. I was really optimistic on the French knots until the thread just completely destroyed itself. It wasn't coping very well. So you do need to cut short lengths off if you're going to be using it. Right, I'll see you all next week. But until then, don't forget, happy crafting and have fun. Bye.